So we have some leaves here, and I have a shape that I'm going to rest my leaves that I've already cut out in, and I'm going to attach them together, and I'm going to create a vessel. So for me, it's going to be low, sort of rectangular, but leaning towards organic shape. And I'm going to just focus on good attachment, because where there's multiple attachments, you have a lot of risks of it breaking in a lot of different places, and you want to focus on uniform shapes of the pieces that you're attaching, because something thin dries very fast, whereas something thick, it will take longer, so the thinner thing will shrink and then it'll detach itself from the thicker thing because it hasn't shrunk at the same rate. So anyway, something you just want to keep it as consistent as possible to make it easy for yourself. And I'm just going to go with it. The outside is going to have a terry cloth pattern, because I did roll my slab on like cotton and terry cloth. So you're going to want to smooth it, but that's when it's leather hard or when I can take it out of its mold. Let's see, I'm going to just arrange it sort of. However, I'm not worrying about it being able to hold water or anything like that. Once I have it sort of laid out in a way that I like, that looks pretty attractive. I can roll some more and I can build up this other side. I probably will take some smaller ones and maybe come up on the edges like that. But now that I have it in a way that's attractive and I'm happy with that, I am going to start to attach them. So things like this, I'm not going to worry about that right now, because once it's leather hard, any burr like that is going to be really easy for me just to kind of brush off. But if I took a damp sponge to that, I would lose and ruin all of this wonderful texture that I've imprinted with the leaf. So I'm just going to leave my smoothing to a minimum, okay? So scoring and slipping, or scratching and attaching, is making sure that both surfaces that are touching each other are really rough. So make it look terrible. Scratch and attach. I'm going to make sure I'm not overdoing it, because that's going to be something I'm going to want to smooth later if it's peeking out from the underneath. So I'm not going to go crazy. Once it's nice and rough, I'm going to take my slip, which is your glue, and I'm going to get a nice consistency that's thicker than water, but it's not as thick as clay, so it's like a pudding. And you're going to use it as glue. You can get it on both sides. Whoops. Sorry, Mr. Leaf. There we go. Now, maybe even a little bit more, because these are big things. Okay, now I'm going to just focus on this area right here. Okay, I'm trying to not lose my texture right there, but it is important that you really do make a nice, strong connection. Okay, so if your leaves are too wet, give it a few minutes so that way they can be strong enough to withstand your pushing. And then what I like to do is go in on that side and seal it. So you can take something like a butter knife. And I don't like to dig at it. I don't like to make gouge marks, but gently just help it along. Seal that seam, because if there's a gap now, as it dries, it's going to get worse. It doesn't just magically get better. You have to make it better. So I see a crack, it's going to get worse. So actually, this knife has a great softer edge. I might use that and get in there. The better you attach it, the better your chances of it surviving in the drying process and the kiln. So the firing process is pretty rough. You have to make it have a good chance of survival. Okay? Ideally, you'd be able to lift it up and get the other side as well. And I would just very slowly and carefully continue that process every single point where you're going to make a connection. And that's how you would assemble.